A number of people are joining Team Trump as we enter the final 3 months of the campaign. Trump campaign vets Corey Lewandowski and Tim Murtaugh joined the team last month. And in the past week, former Democrat turned independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and former Democrat Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard are now honorary co-chairs of the transition team. Let's bring in Trump campaign senior advisor Jason Miller to discuss. Jason, good to see you. So I want to go to the debate because I think a lot of Americans haven't seen, Kamala take questions from the media. Obviously, she did one joint interview with Tim Walz, not a hard-hitting interview at CNN. But we're all looking forward to the debate of September 10th. But I don't know that Kamala has actually confirmed the debate. Is it going to happen? What's the latest on the ABC debate?
Well, Sean, good morning. I think that's a great question with regard to the debate. I think that the Harris campaign is looking for an escape hatch, is looking for a way to get out of this debate. To be clear, these are the rules that the Democrats wrote. These are the rules that we had in place for the CNN debate. Everyone had agreed to the rules, at least informally, with ABC. We have a deal with ABC. ABC has a deal. ABC is with us all the way on this. But here's what I think happened. I think the Harris folks started going into debate prep, and now they realize what they're working with. They realize that they're in real trouble with Kamala Harris. They also know that President Trump is the greatest debater in modern political history. So I think they're nervous and want a way out.
So is your point that actually Kamala Harris's team has not confirmed the September 10th debate?
Absolutely not. And it's mind-boggling because you would think that they'd want to debate. I mean, the American public does deserve this, but they refuse to accept the terms of the debate, which, again, everyone had already agreed to it. We'd agreed to it. ABC's agreed to it. The rules are the rules. They're not changing. But Kamala Harris and her campaign, they're afraid. Think about it for a moment, Sean. Why did they wait 39 days to even do this joint interview where Kamala Harris spoke for all of 16 minutes and 29 seconds? And then now this is day 42 that Kamala Harris has gone without doing a solo interview. This is really bizarre. I think they're afraid and they don't want to put Kamala Harris out there. And you want to know why? Because she's going to have to answer for every bit of this last 3.5 years. You can't talk about turning the page when you're the one who broke the economy, broke the border, broke the world. But that's on Kamala, and she's going to have to account for that when she's on the debate stage.
Jason, we hear rumors of what the strategy is going to be for Democrats, right? Or Kamala Harris on the stage. She's not going to talk about policy, because policy is not her friend. She's going to continue with Joe Biden's agenda on the economy and her policies on the border. So rumor is that she wants to just get under Donald Trump's skin and try to get a moment that she can play with the American people on emotion as opposed to policy. How is the Team Trump addressing what Kamala is going to do if this debate actually goes off?
So there are two parts of this. There's the overall messaging, which reminding people that they were better off with Trump. And they were. Everybody was better off with Trump. Every group in the country, even as we go into Labor Day and we see how much more expensive everything is, people were better off with President Trump. But Kamala Harris, she can talk about turning the page and this other nonsense, but she has a real record. She has a record as DA of San Francisco. She has a record as AG of California. And then she has a disastrous record as vice president, which, of course, was highlighted this past week with all the Gold Star families attacking Kamala Harris and saying, you have blood on your hands for sending our loved ones to be killed, the 13 service members that were killed in Afghanistan. Kamala Harris now has to defend that record. Here's the thing with President Trump. He's a very quick study. He knows every part of Kamala Harris's record as DA, AG, and her time as vice president. So he's going to be ready. You can't prepare for President Trump in a debate. He's the ultimate counterpuncher, and that's why he's the greatest debater that I've ever seen. You can't prepare for him. And so we're going to be ready, and we have that real simple message, how we can make life better for people immediately.
And again, there's very different strategies for the two campaigns. Donald Trump talking to the media, going to the microphone, laying out policies on where he wants to take the country, and Kamala Harris hiding from the media, afraid to go to the microphone. I want to go to election integrity, Jason, because, again, I'm hearing, and we brought this up earlier in the show, but I hear a lot of stories. There's been reports of illegals registering to vote, and there's help coming from the federal government, the state government, and NGOs. In my home state of Wisconsin, right, I went to the DMV, and right where you get your license, it says U.S. citizens can easily get a free ID for voting. That sounds really great. But then in really big letters, it says, no birth certificate, no problem. Ask us how. Well, Jason, if you don't have a birth certificate, the odds are you probably are not a U.S. citizen. And again, I think this is a roundabout way to get illegals to register to vote. And again, I hope that's not happening, but I want to have an election where only U.S. citizens that are legally qualified to vote. What is the campaign doing on this issue?
Well, we have a very extensive effort that we're doing with the RNC, and we've been fighting in battleground versus battleground to try to make sure that we have these strengthening in place. Some states, like Georgia, they went and did it themselves, which is great. Georgia did a very good job. There's actually going to be monitoring of these drop boxes, feel much more confident. Other places, we've had the courts working against us. You take a look at Arizona, for example, and the recent Supreme Court ruling said that you have to show ID to register to vote, but then you don't have to show ID to actually vote. I mean, Sean, literally, when I go to the movies and I have my AMC card, if I want to get my 10% discount or whatever it is they get, I have to show my ID to get, literally to get my discount at the movie theater, but I don't have to show an ID when I go to actually vote. That's what the Democrats want. And if you wonder, people always say, why did Kamala Harris allow 20 million illegals into the country? It's to try to get to this and to have them vote. Keep in mind, Sean, that in a lot of places around the country, Democrats are pushing to allow non-citizens to actually go and vote in local elections. Well, do you really think that in all of those places they're going to say, here's your local ballot and then here's your federal ballot, and there's going to be full confidence that they don't vote in both? I don't have that confidence, but we're going to be ready for them.
You know, that's why Republicans have pushed the SAVE Act. You have to be a U.S. citizen to register to vote, which is why Republicans have pushed you should show an ID before you vote. And the fact is, if you don't want those things, you actually want to set up a system where you can cheat and use fraud to win elections. I hope the campaign continues to push back on that. Jason Miller, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it and appreciate all your work. Thank you.